Good evening and welcome to Hello It's Us. Hello It's Us is dedicated to educating the general public about issues important to the disability community. We believe that you'll discover as you watch these episodes that those same issues that are important to people with disabilities are important to the public at large. Hello It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, our friends at Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and the good people here at Public Access Television. My name is Mike Hoenig, and I work at the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development. Keith?
Yes, I'm Keith Ruff, the co-host with Mike. I'm retired and I'm writing a book.
We're still waiting for that book so we can do a show with you, Keith.
Yes.
We're very pleased tonight to begin a two-part episode featuring the UI Reach program, and you'll learn a lot more about that over the next hour, this episode and then next week. And so we'd like to first of all introduce our guests. Dr. Pam Ries is the director of UI Reach. Good evening,
Hello.
Pam.
Thank you.
And Michael Petkewec is a program specialist at UI Reach. Good evening to you, Mike.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Welcome, both of you.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. We're glad to be here.
Well, why don't let's get started by asking each of you to tell us just a little bit about yourself and what brought you to UI Reach.
I'm Pam Ries, and I'm the director of UI Reach. I was a classroom teacher for many, many years. I taught in the public schools, and I taught general education and special education. Then, as I continued to learn, I eventually got my doctorate in education, and I started teaching people to be teachers. And that brought me to the University of Iowa. Then, when they were starting the UI Reach program, they needed a little bit of help on how to formulate lesson plans and actually deliver some of the instruction. So I started consulting with them. 2012,
Okay.
I became the director of UI Reach.
Oh, great. Time does fly fast.
It
doesn't
does.
Michael, how about you? What brings you to, what brought you to UI Reach?
Well, what brought me to UI Reach was first my wife works for the university, so we moved here in 2010, and she's the costume shop manager of the theater department here at the university.
Oh, really?
So my background is in nonprofit management and arts administration, so I've done a lot of fundraising and marketing, and I've also done a lot of teaching and education things. So I actually had met Pam when we first moved here, and then I was actually working for my church and half-time, and Dr. Pam said, why don't you come here, and I need help with a fundraiser. So I started working on the fundraiser that we have, an annual fundraiser in May. It's a golf outing and fashion show, and so from there a full-time position came available and I applied, and so now I teach, I do the fundraising event, I help with marketing, so I use my nonprofit skills and my education skills too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Could one of you tell us what does REACH stand for?
REACH stands for Realizing Educational and Career Hopes. So we are a 2-year certificate program at the university.
Yes.
And we bring in students with intellectual and cognitive disabilities. And what we do is focus on helping them become as independent as they can possibly become in their living, in their social life, and in their working. And so the career hope part of it is we help them develop the skills they need in order to get a job and to keep a job. So we're very pleased that the University of Iowa opened up the campus to these particular students and now actually welcome and embrace them. We are very much integrated into the campus and feel very fortunate to be a part of the University of Iowa.
Yeah, in fact, it's really interesting. Since we started planning this show, a group of students and some faculty and staff and I go in once a year to an inclusive recreation course. And we were planning that for this fall. And the instructor said, oh, and by the way, we're going to have several UI Reach students joining us in the class. So that sounds like probably one of many opportunities that the students have on campus.
That is right. We have partnered with recreational therapy in the past, and this spring we're actually going to have a class that our students will register for at the University of Iowa. So that's an exciting opportunity.
That's great.
Pam or Dick, how large is the class this year?
This year we have the largest class we've ever had. When the program first started in 2008, they started with 16 students. And this year we have 29 students coming in, and we have 29 students returning. So we have a total of 58 students on campus this year.
Wow.
That will keep us very busy.
It does.
Now you talked a little bit about that this program serves intellectual and cognitive disabilities, but are there other excuse me, other eligibility criteria that students have to meet in order to become students at the UI Reach program?
That is the primary criteria. The other thing is that they will be living in the residence hall, so they cannot have a history of violent behavior,
Okay.
because otherwise they wouldn't be successful. And we want them to have a successful experience, and we have to look out for the safety of all the students.
Right.
The other thing is that they need to be able to take care of their own basic needs.
Yeah.
So by that we mean they need to be able to shower themselves, they need to be able to get themselves up into class, just like any other freshman. If they're taking any medications, they need to be able to take those on their own.
Okay.
And that's the primary criteria that we have.
Pam, if they do need help, are they allowed to hire their own help?
They are allowed.
Because when I was in the dorm, I had to hire my own
Sure.
help.
So if they need help with those basic
Yeah.
needs and the family is willing to hire someone to address that, that's definitely going to be allowed.
Okay.
There's one other criteria that I like to say when we do tours, because I do a lot of the tours. The student has to be motivated to be there too, as well. So it's not
Yes.
just being able to take care of basic skills and take care of themselves, but also really motivated to be there. And so it's exciting to see the students so excited to be here, especially since now we're in our first week.
Do you have a lot of students? I mean, this happens, I'm sure, in general education, but maybe students aren't willing to admit it as often, maybe. But do you have situations where students are initially excited, and then when the time approaches that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be away from home, and do you have a lot of people that question themselves or decide at the last minute, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to do this? Do you run into that very much? Or?
That is always a possibility, but honestly, our attrition rate is what we would refer to that, is lower than the general population at the University of Iowa or across the country. So yes, there are students that are homesick. There are students that question whether or not this is the right program for them, but they have been screened pretty carefully before they get here, and we're able to help them through those different doubts that they have. And really, it's no different than any other freshman coming in.
That's good. That's really neat.
Now, Pam, when we talk about curriculum, does Ries have its own curriculum that they follow?
UI Reach does have its own curriculum. We focus very much on career development, and so any kind of academic skills that we are going to teach are intended to promote or help them be better prepared for careers.
Okay.
So we don't have just a English class like you might have in a high school or elsewhere across campus. We would have a functional reading class where we're working on raising their reading skills, but we're also working on giving them the skills they're going to need in the workplace.
Okay.
And also, our students are able to take a University of Iowa class as a non-degree seeking student. And they can take one class a semester that way. We usually encourage them not to do that the first semester because the first semester they have enough adjusting to do. And then after that, if they're interested and the family wants them to go that way, then we can help them arrange to either audit or take a class for credit. We have another way that we integrate our students in the classrooms, and that is what we refer to as reverse integration. And with that, we have traditionally admitted students who are getting the Disability Studies Certificate, and they do their practicum experience at UI Reach. So they actually take one of the classes that we offer, and then they take a seminar in the evening where they talk about their experiences and how they can utilize what they're learning in their field of study.
We had, it's interesting that you mentioned employment because a previous guest, actually I guess it was our last show, we had an individual who's been very active in a program called Project Search.
Yes.
And are you familiar with that, where they partner with, I thought it was healthcare institutions, but I guess it's a lot of different businesses and match individuals with disabilities, and there are adults, and then there are also transition age students where they go through a career exploration and career education type program, and then an internship.
Right.
Do you partner with them at all, or?
We don't partner with them at the present time. Those programs tend to be non-residential,
I see.
and we are a residential program. I know they have an active program in Des Moines, and they were starting one in Ames. I'm not aware if there's one here in Iowa City.
I don't think so.
And
That may change. She's
Right.
just come from Rochester, New York, and is very excited about expanding things.
So we definitely are working with the same population, but maybe slightly different
in a
niches.
different area.
So the students then, by living here and having other activities, part of what, well, I shouldn't say part of, but what it sounds like you're trying to achieve is helping them establish themselves as having a good opportunity for a job once they leave UI Reach, but it's also a lot about social skills and independent living skills, those kinds of things. Is that-
Absolutely. There are many of our students that come primarily for the social aspect. They maybe don't necessarily need the academic support, but they do need the social support. We have many different things in place to help support them. We do classes, but we also have weekly advising. And I always say living in the residence hall is our biggest classroom because they have the opportunity to learn about things in our regular classes, but then they go and they practice them in their everyday life in the residence hall. And then they use their advising time to process what they've been learning and to help problem solve.
That's great. That's really, when we talk about immersion training sometimes, and that's living it 24/7, isn't it?
It is.
Absolutely.
We also provide supports. We have 4 RAs that we hire. And the 4 RAs live in the residence hall right along with our students. We like to say that we provide 24-hour support, but not supervision.
Okay.
So they are like other college kids, but if they need additional support, we're there to help provide that. And the RAs then, we also have staff members that are on call all time. And so if one of the RAs comes across an issue that they aren't comfortable handling or they need additional support, they call the support person, or we call it the on-call person.
So you have 4 RAs and 56 students now,
Correct.
right? So are the students divided into different floor? I understand it's all in one residence hall, correct?
Right.
The first and second year students all live in Stanley Hall.
Yes.
And we have a men's floor and a women's floor. the 9th and 10th floor of Stanley Hall. We're partnered with the Education LLC, or Living Learning Community. So the other traditional students, traditional admitted students that are living on those floors have all indicated they have an interest in education. So that's been a very nice pairing. And our third year students live in Park Lawn. And would you like to talk a little bit about that, Michael?
Sure. So the third year has, Park Lawn is basically an apartment type setting. So they actually have like cooking and cleaning labs where they actually have to keep up their apartment, and they also have to cook meals with recipes and do the shopping and budgeting, and actually and even invite people over and cook for other people as well. And they do typically have a roommate situation in that apartment as well, but it is more of an apartment, more of on their own, and they do not have a Reach RA in Park Lawn. They also don't have curfew at Park Lawn, but we do for the first and second years in Stanley Hall.
I wondered about that. So is it enforced throughout the week then, or throughout the entire time, I suppose, that they have a curfew?
We have an 11 o'clock curfew on weeknights and a midnight curfew on the weekends. They're required to be back in the residence hall, and they sign in. And that's just an added safety
absolutely.
net. If there's something going on, like they are going to be involved in a cab movie or something like that on campus, and they know they're going to be out past curfew, they can get permission to stay out past curfew. But it's just a way for us to ensure their safety.
Absolutely.
And there are traditional RAs in Park Lawn, but there are also traditional RAs on the 9th and 10th floor of Stanley, along with the Reach RAs. And so, because there are traditional students on those floors, as Pam mentioned earlier, so there's actually 3 RAs on each floor. So there's quite a bit of support there.
Does, I just wonder if it probably over the course of time, just a guess, so you can yay or nay it, but I'm guessing that over the course of time the things kind of get blended, so maybe the Reach RAs are less and less defined as UI Reach RAs, but just another RA, and that some of those distinctions over the course of people living together for a year or two kind of blend in, or not?
Well, that's always our hope. They do have extra duties beyond what the traditional RAs do. They do rounds twice a night, actually 3 times a night, at 9, 10, and 11 o'clock. So that sets them apart a little bit, but other than that, they have the same duties that any other RA would have.
And they have to follow all the housing policies and everything that traditional students and traditional RAs have to follow as well. So,
well, that's good. I think it's, that's all a part of going to school, going to college is having some extra freedom, but also having some extra responsibility.
Exactly.
It's a good lesson
Exactly.
for any students.
And they also, they also have the opportunity to participate in any of the activities that are offered across campus. So we like to look at the student experience as being holistic. We're talking about the housing component, we're talking about the schooling, preparing them for college, but a big part of any college experience is the social aspect. And so they can participate in any of the over 450 organizations that are on campus. They go to the rec center, they go to the sporting events, anything like that that they want to, and we encourage them to do that. We also hire traditionally admitted students as mentors. So if, let's say, you were interested in a yoga class or something like that, a yoga group, we would hire a mentor to go with you so that you know how to get there and to help introduce you into that activity, and then they would fade back as you became more familiar with that, more comfortable in that setting.
I really like that model because it just seems so normal. I mean, it's not where you're having, and I know that some people may need more support than that, but just like, we were talking before the show started about, a particular religious group as an example, or a church or whatever, nobody likes to go to those kinds of things alone the first time.
Right.
So by having somebody that's maybe a little familiar and maybe the person isn't quite familiar with the campus or Iowa City yet, just having somebody go, I think we all like that kind of support initially. So it just seems like a very normal way of including people.
We encourage the buddy system a lot. So our students are actually getting to know each other, and they're actually interacting and traveling and doing things together, like they might go out, work out together, they'll go to dinner together. So lots of different ways that we have all 3 years kind of interact with each other at various times.
And we encourage the second years to mentor the first years. So
That's good.
we typically have a second year student rooming with a first year student. And right now, as everybody's getting acclimated to their new year, the second year students are helping the first year students find different places across campus.
That's great. And they embrace that role.
They do. They really do. Last night, talking about the religious groups, I know a couple of the students took some of the new students to 24/7, which is one of the campus religious organizations.
Terrific.
Is there an average time that students need to get adjusted? Have you noticed that? What is the average time?
Wow, that is a hard question. What is the average time it takes people to get adjusted?
Yes.
I would say it pretty well mirrors what happens with any freshman. We have some students that will just embrace it from day one, and we have some students who are very homesick during this first week.
Yes.
There are some students that are very anxious and like routine, and it takes a while to get comfortable with this new routine. So probably 2 or 3 weeks it'll take some of them. There are honestly some students that it might take the first semester for them to really feel comfortable. But the majority of them, I would say, within the first month are starting to feel pretty comfortable. Already, many of the students are starting to learn their way around campus and can make it back and forth on their own.
Oh, that's good.
Almost like any freshman.
Oh, yeah. People are
Like
lost
any
all over the
freshman,
place.
exactly.
Well, and we have some pretty wonderful public transportation here
Yes, we
too.
do.
So we have
Yeah.
all the students learn both the CAM bus system here on campus and also the city bus pass system. So, because they want to get out to the malls, so they
Yeah.
go to Coralville or they go to Sycamore, they go to the different places that the buses are able to take them. And all of their internships have to be on a bus route as well or within walking distance. So, they have to learn the public transportation here. Luckily here in Iowa City, we're pretty lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Could you give us an overview, of the type of internships that they have?
Wow. Yeah, the internships actually could be a true wide variety. We try to tailor make it to the student, the interests that they want, and the ability. We do make sure that it's kind of a realistic kind of internship that they could do. So it could be working, with a national chain like Express or Petland or Olive Garden or something like that. But we also have a lot on campus and also the VA hospital or in Burge Dining Hall. We also at the rec center.
We've had internships here
Right.
at
Really?
public television
Oh, that's
before.
neat.
Yes. There are some programs across the nation that are connected with one particular type of job. For instance, it might be connected with a hotel, and everybody that goes there learns some kind of a career connected to a hotel or a hospital you had mentioned. What we try and do is, as Michael said, individualize it based on the student's interests and strengths. And we've been quite successful. You may know that The national rate of employment for students or people with disabilities is less than 20%, frequently 17.5%, 17.8%. And 2 years after they complete the program, over 80% of our students are employed, either full or part-time.
I'd say that's an amazing success rate.
That is.
Well, I know we're going to hear in our next week, we're going to hear from an alum of UI Reach, but just real briefly, what might be some of the success stories that you can think of off the top of your heads in terms of the kinds of positions that people have attained over the years?
Well, we currently have 2 young men that have completed the UI Reach program that are enrolled at Loras College, a 4-year program.
Yeah.
We have some people that have gone on to become certified nurse practitioners.
Wow.
We have people that have gone on to community colleges. We have people that are working part-time, but that's a success for
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
We have people that are working in retail, people working at the VA hospital, people doing clerical work. It's a wide variety.
Just like anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without taking away from the UI, are there any other campuses that have a Reach program?
There are other programs across the nation that have similar programs, but they have a different model. In most of the other programs, the students are enrolled in traditional classes, and then they are buddied up with someone else. We prefer to teach our own classes that are more tailored for the students' needs. The other thing is, very few of the other programs across the nation have the residential component. The other programs are starting to recognize the value of having the residential programs, and so there are a growing number that are adding that. The other big difference between our program and others across the nation is we have a large number of students enrolled that go through as a cohort, and they get to know one another, they make friends. Many of the other programs, the students wouldn't even know other people that are enrolled in the program because they don't have any interaction. Our students know one another, and actually we had 2 students that got married.
Wow.
So that's just like any other college experience, right?
Well, and that peer support that everyone talks about, it's invaluable, and I mean, it seems like Reach is really promoting that.
2 minutes.
Okay.
One of the things that when we were talking about internships that I think is really exciting, and as I go to transition fairs and conferences and hear parents and students talk, what Pam brought it up earlier about Reach training, we don't train for just one particular job. It's how to get a job and keep a job, not just train for a job. Okay. And so many programs actually have that, so that when I came to the program, it was really nice to see that Reach lives and breathes that. It is trying to make sure the students are doing a lot of self-advocacy. They are getting to really have input into how their internships go. And after their second year, we have a beautiful convocation ceremony and everything, but we have these transition meetings where the student really gets to be very involved, and they lead those meetings about what their life is going to be like after Reach, and they can invite different people to come in and advise and talk and really help them make decisions about the future. And so that's an exciting way to give them a lot of their own support system within themselves to say, this is what I want, this is how this is going to go, and what do I need to get there, and to become their own people. So it's really nice to have that lived out at Reach.
Yeah, I think that, and that, so skills translate to other. We were talking when we talked with the woman from Project Search. She sometimes maybe a job doesn't work out. That doesn't mean they failed.
No.
It just means that
Right.
it's not the right fit, and then they can move on and take those skills with them and try them in another job.
Right. And our students do that as well. There are some that come in and know exactly what they're going to do, and so they can do their internship there all the way through. There are others that still are trying to figure that out, so they might have multiple internships.
Yeah. Well, we are sadly running out of time here already. This time has really gone by. We'll have to have you come on again so we can learn more about the program. But we would like to thank both of you, Dr. Pam and Michael, for coming in and joining us. And we want to invite all of our listeners and viewers to tune in again next week and hear from some of the UI Reach students.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This has been great.
Good night out there.